So we have a story of Jonah preaching in Nineveh, and the response of the people of Nineveh was a radical fast. Even the animals had to fast. Even the animals had to get the sackcloth, and it's kind of I use a big word, hyperbole. It's kind of like it's totally over the top. I mean, like everything had to fast. Everything had to be covered with ashes. So this kind of depth of the repentance that took place at the preaching of Jonah. Now, what is the sign of Jonah? The sign of Jonah, because we remember Jonah. We remember the Ninevites hearing the voice of Jonah, repenting in a radical way. And then Jesus is saying, I'm bigger than Jonah. I'm a better preacher than Jonah. I have more power in my speech and in the truth that I convey than Jonah, and yet you reject me. And you want sign after sign after sign. Only one sign is going to be given to you, and it's the sign of Jonah. So what was the sign of Jonah? It's the sign of Jonah. The sign of Jonah is the resurrection from the dead. Because again, we remember that Jonah was in the belly of the great fish, right? He was in the belly of the great fish for 3 days. And Jonah is a type of Christ, okay? And just like King David is, just like Adam is, Moses is, all of these characters in the Old Testament have something that they're pointing towards Christ. But Christ says, essentially, he could go and say, I'm greater than Adam, I'm greater than David, I'm greater than Solomon, which he does say, I'm greater than Solomon today. I'm greater than all of them. And you should see that, but you don't. So the people that were called to repentance by Solomon, called to repentance by Jonah, you're worse than them. That's what Jesus was saying. I know. I think to myself, how to win friends and influence people, and I don't know that was Jesus's. He held up this truth, and it's like take it or leave it in a sense. And so that's what's happening in the gospel today. But I want to talk again for just a second about the Old Testament. When God saw by their actions how they turned from evil, when God saw by their actions, you've all heard the expression, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I talk to people a lot of times about their feelings. And something I remind people of often enough is we really don't have immediate control over our feelings. So often we just feel the way we feel. And our feelings aren't necessarily good or bad. But what do we have what do we have control over? Our actions. I read a little quote from St. Jerome recently, and it says, it's easy to talk about fasting when your belly is full, but when it's hard to do it. And so it comes back to prayer and fasting and giving, and we can feel like it for a while, but then what are our actions? What are our actions? So repentance is an action, if you will. Prayer is an action. Giving is an action. Our Lenten disciplines are actions. So when God saw by their actions how they turned from evil, he repented of the evil. And so, my brothers and sisters, Lent is a season of acting out our prayer, our fasting, and our giving.